Today we're going to talk about child welfare, the field and the journey and the development of how we have come to the place where we are at today. Child welfare is defined as the comprehensive program of child welfare services to promote the physical, mental, and social well-being of all children and youth. A little bit of the history behind the child welfare field in the United States. We're going to be looking at a little bit of this. The first orphanage was established in 1729 at Ursuline Convent in New Orleans. In the 1990s, with the industrialization that was taking place, factories hired children who, from ages 5 to about 15, worked machinery under harsh conditions, and many children worked long, hard hours and even lost arms due to accidents in the workplace. The Factory Act of 1833 and 1844 was an attempt at improving child labor laws. In another case, Mary Ellen, this is sort of girl pictured here, lived in New York City in 1874. She became the first case of public demand on child abuse. At the time, there was no child abuse laws in place, yet there were animal abuse laws in place. Mary Ellen's parents had been using scissors to cut her up and abusing her in multiple ways, and they refused to change their abusive treatment. So the case was brought before the courts so that she could be removed from her parents' custody, but it was only done with the claim that Mary Ellen was a part of the animal kingdom, since there had been no child abuse laws in place at the time. Growing concern for child welfare spread in the 1990s. In 1909, President Teddy Roosevelt organized a White House Conference on Children. This was the first of its kind. As a result, later in 1913, a Children's Bureau began working to investigate and report all matters pertaining to the welfare of children and child life among all classes, in order to protect children from abuse and injustice they were suffering. During the time of World War I, President Wilson declared in 1919 the Children's Year, and he called for minimum standards for child and maternal health, labor, and economic well-being. In 1921, the American Association of Social Workers was established. This was the first major professional social body. In 1930, President Herbert Hoover improved the White House involved the White House in assembling 32 volumes worth of research and 19 proposals to improve children's welfare and health, including increased scientific research and public assistance to 10 million mentally and physically deficient children. That same year, educators set out to teach the public, social workers, and parents about hygiene and how to raise their children and keep them healthy. In 1935, President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal during the time of World War II included extensive policies about child labor, maternal health, daycare, and education laws. During the 1970s, California and Denver launched a child mediation program in the court systems. Eventually, it became public law in California and finally in all states that no child could be tried in the courts without mediation. Increased awareness developed in the medical field to specialize more in children's health. The National Association of Social Workers, also known as the NASW, was established in 1955 through the consolidation of 7 smaller organizations involved in social welfare. They collaborated to write a code of ethics which would be responsible for ensuring the same level of integrity for all social workers. We have come a long way since President John F. Kennedy's address to the public about welfare in 1962. He said, "The times, the conditions, the problems have changed, and the nature and objectives of our public assistance and child welfare programs must be changed also if we are to meet our current needs." Since this speech, change to public welfare has been ongoing from presidency to presidency, and Congress has sought to improve the welfare of children and of the people. The role of social workers. For my interview, I interview a social worker named Nicole Hollisberg. She worked with an organization, the State Division of Family and Services of Arkansas. She has a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's in social work, and has experience in the field of child welfare, particularly for 10 months. Her role was to look into open cases and to work with foster care, to work in supportive cases where no case was open, but where the parents had sought out the help, and also to be available for the on-call abuse hotline and to supervise parent visits with the goal of reunification. One time, she told me, she had to testify in a court to terminate rights of parents who had been abusive toward their children. She also did lots of paperwork and training for the cases. Social workers in the field of welfare often have to make extremely difficult decisions that will affect the future of a child, the parents, and often other family members. All of these decisions need to be made while maintaining a professional and working relationship with parents. Social workers' roles also have to do with adoption policies. They are responsible for helping children be placed in homes and helping potentially adoptive parents to step in and become legal guardians of those children. For children whose birth parents and wider family are unable to or unwilling to provide good enough care for them. Another role of social workers is to develop, resource, and empower families to use the resources available to them to care for their families. Clients served in the practice area. This really varies depending on which area you serve. In my interview with Nicole, the demographics in the area in which she served were 80% Caucasian, a few African Americans, and in some places she only had one Latino family. Three million children who are abused each year and their parents enter into the child welfare system and begin a difficult process to work through crises. These are the people that are served by the social workers in this area. Social workers in child welfare also serve impoverished families, pregnant mothers, families with difficulties at home, abused and neglected children are also served. aunts, uncles, the courts, daycares, schools, in-home care centers, all are clients that are served in relationship to child welfare. The social worker has a role in all of these areas when exploring all of the resources to help a struggling family or child. Some of the primary methods of intervention used in the practice area. Crisis intervention by removing the child from the abusive situation and placing him or her under the state supervision. Assessments of the situation by test in home visits or visits to facility where child is involved. Some of the current issues and concerns within the field probably vary depending on who you're speaking about and specifically what area of child welfare. As I spoke to Nicole about this question, the current issues and concerns within the field, she said that she felt that there was a high demand of knowledge, that she had to know lots of different things in order to function well at her job, but that she had no time to actually look at the policy book entirely because the state was at a hiring freeze and she was overloaded with work. There's a lot of responsibility and a lot of paperwork due to state regulations. Adoption in child welfare is viewed as a last resort option, but placement in the procedure make it a difficult process for viable placements. This is a bit like what Nicole was discussing with the difficulty of paperwork that often makes it difficult to go through the whole process of the paperwork. For the foster child that moves from one place to another issue in the child welfare field is earlier relationships will be lost. Moving to another place involves adapting to a different social and physical environment, learning new house rules, adapting to new residents, often going to a new school and developing a new social network. Some of the other current issues and concerns within the field of social work. Concerns in child welfare field involving placement include children who have been removed from abusive homes are likely to live in a group home at a foster care placement, a setting which increases the likelihood of continued abuse. There are correlations of children in group homes with abuse and continual abuse. In fact, a study of death row inmates in California investigating prosecutors of lethal violence found that 81% of the cases included men who had been severely and physically or sexually abused while residing in the foster care system or under state youth authority jurisdiction. It is estimated that between 9 and 38% of homeless people were in foster care as children. And then some wonder, what does the future hold? The future of social work in child welfare. What will it look like? Research continues to grow in the area of social work and social welfare and in child welfare. There has been a great journey in the world of child welfare until today. Many things have improved and have adapted in our society, yet research still shows that there is more to learn, more to apply in child welfare. As I asked Nicole what she thought about the field, she said it definitely has improved. She feels some policies are effective. At least 55% of them, she would say, are effective, but most of them are unnecessary. And the policies that are unnecessary and tiresome probably were added as a result of something that might have happened maybe years ago, and that might have been a special case. So how can the future of social work placed in child welfare continue to grow and continue to get better? A challenge that we still face for the future is the growing gap between the rich and the poor, and the dependency and correlation between struggling families and social welfare. Some people believe that the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer, and that we will always be stuck in this continual need for dependency, and that the field, instead of continuing to help people out of poverty, will just continue to be used in a way that won't help people grow out of that place or season in life. But there have been cases of families that have been successfully helped and that are on their feet today, and that have pulled it through. And another concern for some of the people in this field is the dependency that tends to be correlated with the field of child welfare, especially with mothers who are pregnant or unable to work. There is a bit of a dependency culture that gets created in there. But there are some policies that have been set in place in order to keep this sort of thing from happening. But this is why focusing on prevention for future generations is so vital. We need to teach our children more about tracing a path in life. We need to teach them about how to successfully navigate the journey of life through prevention, counseling, and training children and families to become more aware of potential issues. We need to train lay people to be more involved and to point struggling families in the right direction. I asked Nicole in my interview with her, what do you think the role of the church is in regard to the field of social welfare, child welfare? She said, definitely mandated report. But another issue that came up a lot while in her experience is that people are willing to tell on others, but they're unwilling to come alongside them and to help struggling families. Her advice was for people in the churches to get involved in people's lives and not just expect the police or the government to do all of the work. We need to equip our people in our church on how to listen, and we need more social workers to be equipped for the workforce and for public service. Overall, the field of social work has grown a lot in the area of child welfare. Today, there are policies in place in order to keep our children safe, and there are organizations in places that will continue to help children and that will serve specific areas of need in the families. There are resources available to struggling families, and there are a lot more preventive measures in order to keep people and families from reaching a point where there might be a more critical situation. We need to continue to grow and continue to use prevention, training, and equipping in all of these areas of child welfare. Thank you so much for your time, and may God bless you. These are my references. that I utilized for this video, and I hope that they are helpful to you and that they are what you that may point you in a direction to continue the further studies in this area and in this field. Thank you.